Hello, world. My name is Leo, and welcome to my final thoughts video for the Rain World Survivor campaign. I know quite a few of you have been wanting this, wanting to hear my final thoughts, final theories, final analyses on things, and I spent the last week or so. I let the experience sit with me for a few days, and I started taking notes on things, and yeah, I have quite a bit to say. So yeah, let's just get into it. So the first thing I want to say is that my thoughts from the final video haven't really changed all that much from that time. Like, I still think that this game is really cool. It's rare to see a game that nails its concept and commits to its concept as well as this game does. And when it comes to the atmosphere, the tone, the AI, and animal behaviors, making you feel like you are in this world, and at the same time not like you don't belong in this world. I feel like it there's not a whole lot of games that do it quite like this game does. And so yeah, that thought, it has still stayed. My opinions haven't really changed in that regard. But I wanted to touch on some of the other topics that I might not have covered, or stuff I've learned and stuff like that. So the first thing I wanted to say is I had made a comment in the final video about how going down to find enlightenment is definitely symbolic of something, and I still think that is the case. I have written down here symbolism of going into the earth for enlightenment, looking inward to discover truth. So I did look a little bit into Buddhism after I finished the game, and I looked a little bit into, I did very surface level research, but a lot of people were talking in the comments in the last few videos about samsara and nirvana and stuff like that. And so samsara is the cycle of suffering that we all go through, and that is very much depicted here. Someone in the comments called this game a samsara simulator, and even Five Pebbles talked about everything being stuck in a cycle and everyone wanting to leave. And yeah, that symbolism's very prominent here. Samsara being that cycle of suffering, and then the main goal is nirvana, the escape from the cycle and the escape from suffering. And I find it really interesting, even though this game is not about Christianity, I still find it interesting to compare between Buddhism and Christianity, because in Christianity you would think that the people who built as close to the sky as they could, being as close to the heavens that they could, that's a very Christianity flavored type of thing. But in this context, in Buddhism, as far as I know, and from what I could tell in my research, Buddhism is much more about looking inward and having to find inner enlightenment and inner peace before being able to transcend and find nirvana. And in that sense, I do find it very symbolic and kind of ironic that the humans built so far away from their source of quote unquote, like their source of enlightenment that they had found, um, almost to like a hubris type of level, if I'm right about them trying to like artificially uh, duplicate enlightenment in their own way while being so far away from the true source. Um, I also found it really interesting. I saw in my research that like uh, the cycle, part of that cycle is like reincarnation. And I think the thing that I read said that there were like 6 things that you could reincarnate as. And like the good things that are like gods, demigods, and man. And then the bad 3 things are animals, ghosts, and like going to hell. And so, and this article said that typically man is considered the best one because it's the most well-rounded one, because gods and demigods don't typically have to deal with suffering, and therefore they find it like they can't really escape the cycle because they don't know suffering as much as man does. And so I found that really interesting as well. I can't. That kind of made me wonder if maybe all of the humans ended up reincarnating as animals. If like taking the Buddhist symbolism to the extreme, I wonder if all the humans like reincarnated as animals, and they actually weren't able to escape the cycle because they like didn't truly reach enlightenment. But yeah, the way of having to reach it being like search, like literally the inner workings of the world, like like finding the enlightenment of the world, which is like, if my theories earlier were correct, like what the humans were searching for, trying to figure out a way to enlighten the entire world beyond just those that were intelligent enough to be able to perceive that kind of thing and understand it. Like the answer to enlightening the world is literally hidden in the world, and you have to like search for it inside. Like you have to dig deep and search inside the world to find it. So I don't know if that's truly what the symbolism is, but that's what I had. That's kind of what I was thinking as I was going through that experience, and as I was reading on like samsara and nirvana and stuff like that. Someone had asked me in the comments, like someone had said they really liked the thoughts videos and they wanted to hear more thoughts on like the echoes and the purpose of some of the places that I have visited. And so the echoes, I don't know a lot about. I know that they are the beings in the depths. They're most likely, and a couple of people have said their name, which is like I know they're called guardians now. I'm assuming they're guarding the. Someone else said void sea, but so I was right about it being void fluid. So yeah, I'm assuming they are guardians of the void sea. Maybe they are guardians who decided to see, like, the thing with that is if the guardians did transcend, like maybe some of them were chosen to transcend and some of them were chosen to stay behind, because if they were just guardians who had transcended, why wouldn't they all have transcended? Why would some still be there? So I'm assuming some need to stay behind to guard it or something, and maybe only let worthy people pass. Which would imply that Five Pebbles knows about the Guardians and about... Maybe that's why... I'm actually doing theorizing on the spot. Maybe that's why Five Pebbles and the other iterators can't transcend, is because they're incapable of getting karma. And somehow with that karma, that's how the Guardians like deem you worthy of reaching the Void Sea or something like that. Yeah, maybe that's it. So yeah, other than that, I'm not sure what the echoes could be. Although the one at the end with like, we were right to drill right through them, it sounded like it was speaking from the point of view of the humans, but the fact that it took the shape of a guardian confused me. So I might be wrong. Maybe the echoes aren't guardians that transcended. Maybe somehow the humans became guardians? Maybe. Who knows? That's for the other, maybe I'll find that out in the other campaigns. As for the purpose of the places that I've been in the campaign, I can certainly give it a go. So, outskirts is obviously outskirts of the, like the industrial complex and the leg and stuff like that. The industrial complex was probably for mining resources from the earth, and also probably like producing what, there's a word I'm looking for that I can't find for some reason, but like producing void fluid, or like maybe siphoning, I think is the word I'm looking for, like maybe siphoning void fluid from the ground and like processing. I think that's the word I was looking for, like processing void fluid. In order to try to like, or maybe like to artificially make the void fluid. Garbage wastes are like, engaging in anything industrial is going to produce waste, so that's where they dumped all of their waste. Drainage is probably a lot of the gates all seem to be steam powered or like water powered. Water is always involved in some capacity with that process. So I don't think it'd be that far of a stretch to assume that at this point in like the human age, things were water powered. And so maybe drainage was a way of like recycling the water to power the factory. Because I don't know where it would be draining. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming, because it would go into drainage and then cycle back up. Maybe. Shoreline. If I'm right about, which I'm 99% sure, so shoreline is clearly a flooded memory conflux. Like, the structures are the same with the like squares. Every room is a square with poles and entrance, with poles on the sides and entrances in the corners. So I don't know if it's flooded or if it's designed that way, because all of the pipes, I guess the pipes that like we went up and down could have been like similar to unfortunate development type of pipes. I'm not sure. The structure would be different. There would be no need to reverse gravity or anything on that kind of structure, maybe. Although I know I didn't explore it well enough, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so shoreline is like a flooded memory conflux. And the place where looks to the moon is a, like, it's the same place as where Five Pebbles is. As for the rest of shoreline, I'm not sure what that could be. Maybe it could be the remains of, if it wasn't intentionally designed that way, maybe part of that structure actually did collapse and maybe some of the city fell into the water. I don't know. Other than that, I would just think like power plants, because again, everything is water powered. Well, if that part of the theory is also correct. Let's see. Looks to the moon. Shaded citadel. So obviously it's shaded because the leg is blocking the sun all the time. As for the type of structure that is, because like, okay, so it goes down to the sewers, there's like cliffs, there's a building. Maybe it was actually like a bridge, because I know like the entrance to shaded I had compared to like an overpass But maybe at one point that was like transportation to the leg. Like maybe that was like, maybe the leg was built in the ocean or something, and they needed transport from land out to the leg. So maybe Shaded Citadel is like a road. I don't know why that would be. I don't know if that makes sense though, because Citadel is not. Citadels aren't roads. Citadels are just buildings. So maybe like the equivalent of like a checkpoint. Like maybe it was still the road to the leg, but there had to have been some kind of building interrupting it or something like that. I don't know. And then memory crypts. I have written down monument to people who ascended, ? Or graveyard of people who didn't make it to the city before the rain hit. I think either one of those could be plausible. I did have it spoiled for me in one of the comments that the boxes in the memory crypts are filled with flesh, although I didn't see anything more than that because I immediately clicked away from the comment after reading that. So maybe the second one is more correct, that it's like a graveyard of people who didn't make it to the city before the rain hit. See, I could see that being a thing. The leg is obviously the like structure and like what powers the city, probably. The like 5 pebbles and that whole place is where the simulation happens and where the big problem is being iterated on. I think someone might have said it's not the ecosystem they're simulating. And if that's not the case, then I don't know what that would be. Because maybe I don't know enough about what the big problem is to know what is being iterated on. But it probably has something to do with the cycle. I don't know. And then chimney canopy. Maybe there was an elevator at one point to access the city without having to go through the leg. Or maybe it was part of the leg at one point but collapsed. I guess that would make sense because my second theory about shoreline and that being like a collapsed structure, maybe chimney canopy collapsed into the water, into shoreline. And then where else did I go? The gutter is just part of drainage. And ooh, actually, no, the gutter has to be a subsection of drainage, I feel like. Maybe they were trying to harness the rain to get more water to power their stuff. That makes sense to me. Farm arrays is a mystery. I genuinely don't know what that would be used for. Well, actually, no, because that farther out that way is where the void fluid is. So the I can at least, let me start from down there and work backwards. So filtration is probably how they were collecting void fluid, like they were trying to filter it from the depths. Subterranean, there were trains, and they were box cars, not passenger cars. So I'm assuming that's how they were transporting the filtered void fluid to industrial, maybe. That would still leave farm arrays. Arrays implies some kind of power. Maybe that was purely just to power their equipment. Maybe it was a separate power plant kind of thing. Like maybe some kind of like experimentation or some kind of reaction, because it's like it's outside of outskirts, so it can't have been used for the like main process. Unless maybe farm arrays was used first and then they moved toward, the humans had to move towards the water for some reason, because that's where they had to build the leg, maybe. I don't know, but those are my theories, and that's what I'm going to stick with for now. So that is, I think that's all the places that I visited during my Survivor Let's Play. I don't think I missed anything. So the next thing I wanted to say, that I just wanted to point out was, someone had made a comment about how, like, players returning to the cycle plays into the themes, and I do think that's really interesting. Like, how there are many different campaigns, and like in the end all I helped was the survivor, and so like in the other campaigns the cycle is still ongoing, and by choosing to play the other campaigns the player is like perpetuating the cycle. I find that really interesting, and it's also like other games have done that as well, like Nier Automata. I know you guys have, I like to make comparisons to Nier a lot, but yeah, Nier Automata also has a thing where like a cycle of suffering actually plays into that game, and if you like start a new game, you are technically like perpetuating the cycle. I won't get into spoilers as to why that is, but I just find it really interesting that like Nier Automata has that kind of theming, and like Rain World also has that kind of theming. So now I want to get into the soundtrack, because I did listen to the soundtrack just to see if there was anything that I could like get from it that would be worth putting in this video. And something that I did was I actually reached out to someone else who knows a lot about Rain World. His name is Snoodle. He is a game developer and musician, and he does a lot of like Rain World mods and like fan-made Rain World songs. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description if you want to check out some of his stuff. And I reached out to him and asked him if there was anything in the soundtrack that I should look out for in terms of like themes or like storytelling or like motifs and stuff like that. And something that he said that really interested me, and is something that I never really thought of before, is the composer for the game, James Primate, is also apparently the person who designed most of the levels. And because of that, you can see like motifs and like repeated themes in the level design. And that was just a really cool point of view that I wanted to talk about, because I've never thought of looking at environmental design or level design the same way that I would look at a piece of music or like a soundtrack, where you can weave storytelling and themes and stuff like that using like instrumentation and motifs and leitmotifs and stuff like that with music. You can also do kind of the same thing with environmental design, with like the placement of different objects, like reoccurring patterns or like color palettes or objects or something like that. And one of the examples that he had pointed out to me was the stone heads on pillars. They are used in Outskirts when you first start the game, and then you can also see them in farm arrays and Subterranean in a very different context. And so I started thinking like what other motifs or like repeated themes or designs would I have seen in the game besides that during my experience. And one that comes to mind, like a pretty obvious one, like I think would be the connection between like Looks to the Moon and Five Pebbles. Like they both feel very alien. They both have a very like harsh, like geometric like rigid kind of level design when it comes to like the squares and the specific placements of pipes. The geometry is much more like, yeah, like rigid and harsh. And yeah, I don't know if I can't really think of any more off the top of my head. I wasn't looking at the game from that point of view, so I would need to go back and rewatch my Let's Play to see if I could spot any other things like that. But I will try to look for that from now on in other games that I play, because I think that's such a cool way to like analyze level design and stuff like that, like looking for repeated themes and motifs that are used throughout the game in different levels under different contexts. Like, yeah, that's just really cool to me. And but when it comes to the soundtrack itself, uh there isn't a lot of there aren't a lot of repeated themes or storytelling in the tracks. And that was something else that Snoodle pointed out to me, was that there besides one like reoccurring theme, each track is kind of like its own individual self-contained thing. And that's kind of what I got to from listening to the whole soundtrack. Besides the Sundown theme, there aren't a whole lot of repeated things. But I do have things to say about the Sundown theme and how that evolves in different forms and like stuff that's taken from that. But first I want to go over some of the more like individual stuff. So for the soundtrack as a whole, it focused a lot on like synths as the primary instrumentation. A few songs focused on synth voices, stuff like Grumble Bum and The Captain. Those in particular felt like really out of place. Like they have such a different feel compared to the rest of the soundtrack and in the places where they are. I know The Captain plays in Shoreline. I think Grumble Bum plays in. Does it play in Subterranean? I think it does. Those two songs in particular have such a different tone from everything else. Maybe it's just because of their like the way there's a lot of like heavy bass in both of those tracks, because those aren't the only tracks that use voices. But yeah, those two in particular stood out to me as being like super out of place compared to everything else. But yeah, the primary and like high use of synths and synth voices do contribute to a lot to the tone of the game, making it feel like very sci-fi, very, I don't want to say like very alien, but alien to a degree, because the sounds aren't natural. Like you are going through this world as an animal, but a lot of the stuff that you're climbing on and like going through is not natural. Nature is like still in the process of taking over, but it hasn't taken over yet. It's still very much a bunch of man-made structures that you're primarily going through. The threat music, quite a few people commented on how they really liked the threat music for the soundtrack because of how it builds, and I find that really cool as well. One thing listening to all of the threat music tracks that I found really cool is that there's always a couple of instruments that are on beat and almost like a marching kind of thing, and then there's always a couple of instruments that are off the beat, like syncopated, and that creates a very like unstable kind of feeling. And then if you add in stuff like dissonance and stuff like that, you have a perfect recipe for a good track to keep you on edge, especially if you're like fading instruments in and out. So yeah, the threat music is really cool in this game. For individual songs, I'm actually going to transition to the soundtrack screen here. And so, White Lizard, I really like how there's a percussive element in this song that sounds like and feels like a lizard chomping. So I think it starts like here. So yeah, that percussive element, it sounds like it's like coming from, if you're wearing headphones, it sounds like it's coming from the left and right and then meeting in the center. So there's like a clap in the center and then it like goes back to the sides. So in that sense, it feels like and sounds like a lizard chomping. Um which I just find really cool. I love it when music does that kind of thing. Um Unfortunate development. Sorry, I'll show a picture of my notes. These notes are kind of all over the place, so I don't really have a set thing, like a set script for how I'm talking about these. Um so unfortunate development, specifically the Rain World, the superstructure threat music. I had no idea that that whole thing was just the like was it playing that music the whole time? Because I just thought it was like background noise combined with music. Like the background noise of like the gravity machine and stuff like that. But I think it was actually playing the threat music the whole time that I was in Unfortunate Development. Um, which that is really cool. I was not aware that that was doing that, but that's also really smart because that is the most threatening place. Like the threats are literally lining the walls. You're never free from the threats in that area. So that's really cool. Um, Someone had asked what my favorite tracks were going to be. I really like The Coast. The Coast is really awesome. Lovely Arps is one that I really like as well. Else 1 and Else 6 I really like too. Those are like super unique tracks compared to everything else. Pictures of the Past I really like, and then the Farmer Ray's song, like the song that was in Farmer Ray's, which I had to look for a comment to figure out what the name was. It was either called Proxima or Distance, and I'm assuming it's a DLC track because it's not listed here. But I really liked that one too. And speaking of going back to Else 1. So that is the going to that song. So Else 1 is the song that I said sounded really holy, and it's the song that plays when you first get your like full karma when you go to the depths. And even when it was playing and I was playing it in the game and I was saying like this sounds holy, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if this has a plagal cadence, and it does. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm not a teacher, but I'm going to try to teach you a little bit of music theory right now. So, in case you don't know, how music works is you have notes and you have a key, and like you take a set of 8 notes, or like technically 7, but the eighth note is like the first one, but the next higher one. So you have a set of 8 notes that is your scale, and that is the key that like all of the notes in the song are going to be made up of those 8 notes typically. Um, and You identify the notes with like if you're doing a scale, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And some of you might know it by like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But sorry, that sounded awful. But in college, I learned to use numbers instead of do, re, mi. So numbers are what I'm familiar with. So anyway, and then if you put those notes together, like groups of those notes, you have chords, and that's how music is made. So a cadence is typically how you end a musical phrase. Like the last two chords of a phrase, typically, that's called a cadence. And it brings like a sense of finality to a phrase or to the end of a piece of music. And a plagal cadence, in particular, is like, so the most common cadence is going from a 5 chord to a 1 chord, and 1 is like home. The one is like the main part of the key. So like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. So like 1 and those two ones are the same, and like that's where the home is in that scale. And so like a 5 chord to a 1 chord, that's typically how that's the most common cadence. But a plagal cadence is when you go from a 4 chord to a 1 chord. And so why is that important here? Well, a plagal cadence is also known as an amen cadence. And the reason for that is that back in the day, the plagal cadence was most used in hymns and like songs of worship and stuff like that. And so it earned like the nickname, the amen cadence. And so I was wondering, typically in like even today, when you are like making like mostly like choral, like songs designed to be sung by a choir in like a spiritual context, you will typically see plagal cadences or amen cadences today still used in that context. And so here, I was wondering if they had done the same thing, and they do. And it's actually, it's right here. So these are the final two like chords that I'm about to play. The song does continue after those, but it isn't really chords. It's just like a drone and then like a melody on top. But here is what this is. So a 4 chord, really quick, is made up of the notes in the scale. It would be 4, 6, and 1, because you start with the like note that you want to start the chord with. So 4, and then you go like that's how you stack the notes. So it'd be the root of the chord is 4, and then 6 would be the third of the chord, and then the top one, or like it could be the bottom one if you're inverting the chord, but 1 is like the fifth of the chord. I really hope I'm making sense right now. But okay, so let me see if I can play this. So this chord right here. So this is our 4 chord. So so we actually have 1. Duh. We have that playing the whole time. The whole song, there is a drone going on. And I'll actually play from the beginning over here. So that drone that's right there before anything plays, that sticks around throughout the entire song, and that is our 1. Which in this case, I actually tested and I found out that this song is in the key of B major. I think it's B major. Yeah, so that drone is going on the whole time. So that gives us our 1. And then if we go back to like 225, so 1 2 3 4, that's our 4. So hang on, so 1 4 6. So the melody up top, that high synth, is our 6 6, and then it plays 2 more notes, which imply I'll get into those in a second, but and then it resolves to this 1 chord right here. So like 1 3 5. But anyway, so these 2 notes. So 6 5 3 1. So it actually Let me pause. So the 3 and the 5, so it goes, so the top, sorry. um I'm not used to having to try to talk about stuff like this to this degree. So the top synth has the 6. So like the 4 6 1 that makes up our 4 chord. The top note is the 6, and then it goes down to 5 3 1. And that, so there's a couple of things that it could be doing there. 1 3 and 5 are what make up the 1 chord in a scale, so it could be implying that the 1 chord is coming up, but you can keep stacking on chords. So like if we go back to the 4 chord, like 4 6 1 3 would be the 7th of the chord, and then 5 would be the 9th of the chord, which like uh chords with the 7 or the 9 do happen. So I'm not sure if it's trying to like imply the like 7th or 9th of the 4 chord, or if it's implying that the 1 chord is coming up. So I don't know if this is exactly a plagal or amen cadence, because it is not like, it doesn't cleanly transition from the 4 chord to the 1 chord, but it's like hidden here is this amen. And then after this chord like fades out, you'll hear that it's just the drone. Like the middle, this middle voice that was here, like the middle voice is kind of gone here. I think it's just duplicating the drone at this point. Like I think that middle, like, yeah, like this voice during this part, I think it's just doubling the drone. So yeah, plus I think that like it's pretty significantly ended the like phrase that was going on in the middle of that piece. So yeah, I just found that really cool that there is a like 4 1 plagal amen cadence in a song that sounds very holy and is like meant to, and like takes place in a very spiritual place. So yeah, I hope all of that made sense. Like I said, I'm not a teacher, so I have no idea if any of that made sense. I hope it did. And so let me know in the comments if that actually made sense to you. But okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the Sundown theme, which is the only reoccurring theme. And I don't know if this has any significant storytelling for sure, but so we're just gonna go with it. Like I like taking theories to like as far as they can go, so that's what we're gonna do here. So there's 4 themes in this game, or like there's 4 versions of this Sundown theme. There's Sundown, there's Moondown, there's Random Gods, and Deep Light. But the thing is, we actually hear callbacks to those themes in other songs. In particular, there's a like particular interval or like phrase that's repeated. So here's, well, actually I have tabs open. I don't need to do this. So no. So we have tabs. I have tabs open, so I don't have to like switch songs. It's like, this is the Sundown theme, and the thing I want to point out is actually right at the end. Okay, so it's coming up. That right there. The da 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 da. That interval actually makes an appearance in a lot of other songs. It makes an appearance in Pictures of the Past, which for some reason I don't have a tab open for, so let me... You guys are gonna get to see me like do this on the fly. But hang on. So like da da. So it's the interval is there. It is also in Black Moonlight. Da, da. So yeah, it's there, and this one, and it like repeats, and the like da da da, and then the coast is the same way. Da 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 da. And the coast is actually really weird because it actually does it twice, but it sounds different. Da, da. And then if you go forward a bit, da da da. So that's the same interval, but like in a different part of the key. And then it also plays, like it plays in Random Gods and Deep Light, and then it also plays in Pulse. Because you can hear, I think, Pictures of the Past behind all of the noise. Da, da, da. So yeah, that interval is almost like a callback, I think. Like it really jumped out at me, especially because it's so primarily used in Black Moonlight and The Coast. And I don't know if there's a connection between those two songs. But yeah, so I was like, out of all of the things to call back to, like I get like Sundown is the main menu theme, Moondown plays when you are with Looks to the Moon. Random Gods, I actually don't know where Random Gods plays, but and then Deep Light plays when you are like swimming with the bunch of slug cats, I believe, at the very end of the game. But like that particular interval really jumped out at me as something that was reoccurring in all of them, and I was wondering why. And so, well, okay, so I was wondering if there was a storytelling reason why that could be reoccurring. And there just might be. So, in the context of the keys that they are in, I think, this is just a theory on my part, there's two different ways that that interval can be interpreted, at least how it's used. In a major key, so for those of you who don't know, the two most common keys are major and minor. Major keys sound very happy. Minor keys sound very like melancholy. And so like happy, sad, if you will. So in a major key, those notes would be 3 and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 7, 1. So 3, 7. And then in order to resolve the chord, you go up to 1. So 3, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3. 1 7 3 7 1. Yeah, okay. But then so that would be if it was in a major key. But in a minor key, I think it would be 5 to 2. So 5 2 1. So 1 3 5 3 1 1 2 3 4 5. So 5 2 1. So in that context, 5 2 1. In order for that interval to resolve in a minor key, you resolve down to 1. So, just to recap, in a major key, if you want that interval to resolve, you have to go up. But in a minor key, which is minor keys are melancholy and like sad, so minor keys could be equated to suffering. They are most used in contexts when like someone is suffering. In order to find a resolution to the suffering, you have to go down. So that might be a stretch. I found that really, when I figured that out, I found that really cool. I thought I had like made a massive breakthrough. So I decided to test it, and I was like, okay, when that interval happens, which way does it resolve? Like, does it resolve up or does it resolve down? And so in Sundown, it actually resolves really weirdly. I think it resolves up, but the chord that happens is not a normal 1 chord. So let me see if I can figure out on the fly what it resolves to. Da, 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 da. Oh, I guess it does resolve down. Da, da, da. Oh, okay. So it actually kind of does both, because I think... So the whole song, like, it switches between major and minor for the Sundown theme. So when that interval happens, I think it resolves down, but it resolves to a major chord. So it actually... That actually might make sense with the storytelling of the game, because the phrase of the song, like this particular phrase up to that point, is minor, so it's like suffering, but when it resolves down and becomes major, so it becomes happy. So maybe that could be symbolism for reaching nirvana. Like becoming happy once it resolves down. That is really cool. Okay. Sorry, I literally just figured that out as I'm recording this. So maybe that's a thing. Black Moonlight. Hang on. Where's my Black Moonlight tab? Oh, hang on. Pictures in the past. I don't know if you heard it when I was singing it, but it resolves down. Yeah. Da da da. So yeah, that resolves down. Black Moonlight resolves up for some reason. I think it's because it like loops. The interval loops. Da, da. So yeah, that one resolves up, and I'm not sure why. But so So yeah, I don't know if there would be a storytelling significance why that one resolves up, but yeah, so we're gonna move on from that one. The coast is actually really cool because, like I said, there are two different versions in this one, and one sounds major and one sounds minor. So like the first time it plays, hang on. So like that time it plays, it resolves up, but if you fast forward into the song, it's like the one is already kind of there. I don't know. So, yeah, the coast is a weird one. Also, I apologize in advance for how this is going to be edited because I have no idea how I'm going to edit this. But okay, so the coast resolves like both up and down at different points. And then moon down. Okay, here it is. Da, da, da. So moon down resolves down. Random gods. Okay, I think this is where it's going to be. It's really hard to hear through all the noise. Da 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 da. Like you can hear the drone come in, like da. So yeah, random gods resolves down. Not really a drone. It's like that was like an extra bass part that just came in where there wasn't one at one point, and resolved that interval. And then did I say the pulse resolves down already? Because it's like the same thing as Pictures of the Past. So yeah, that one resolves down. And Deep Light. So like the interval is kind of hidden in Deep Light. Like the interval doesn't explicitly occur. I think I'm remembering now. I had a hard time finding it here, but like there's notes in between it and the place in the melody where it should occur, like there's a different chord, like there's the melody goes somewhere else. Like this one out of all four is the most varied of all of the like Sundown themes, quote unquote, but when that interval happens it still resolves down. So yeah, yeah, I just found that really cool. And again, I don't know if any of that is intentional. I don't know if I'm reading into things where it shouldn't be read into, but like I said, it just jumped out at me that that interval in particular and like that phrase, that like motif, I guess, was the only reoccurring thing in even songs outside of the theme. And yeah, when I figured out the thing about like having to resolve down if it's in a minor key, or I guess Sundown kind of tricks you by resolving down to the relative major key. um, yeah, it's just it was just a really cool thing, and I hope you guys found that cool as well. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I wanted to end on the soundtrack because I had the like most things to say on it, and in my opinion, the most cool things to say on it because yeah, it's not every day that I get to talk about things that I've found in soundtracks that may or may not be related to the storytelling. But anyway, that is going to do it for my final thoughts for Survivor. It's really cool. I yeah, I really enjoyed my time, and I hope you guys enjoy. I know you guys have enjoyed my like little discussion videos that I've sprinkled in here and there. This is the first time that I've done. For those of you who are new, this is the first time I've ever done something like this where I have done discussion videos like within a Let's Play. And this is also my first time doing a like final thoughts video as well. Um, so yeah, any other final thoughts I might save for the other campaigns? Um, I still don't really know. I'm going to be trying to vary things up when it comes to playing the other campaigns versus playing other games because I don't want to burn myself out of Rain World. Even playing the first, I will say, actually, Gourmand, that video hasn't come out yet as of recording this, but it feels really different. And I'm not sure how to feel about it. I know I have to definitely find a different approach when it comes to different situations. But even then, I was feeling like, okay, this feels like something new, but it also feels like I need to like step back a little bit. So, and I need to play something else. So, yeah, but look forward to Gourmand and other things in the future. And yeah, Rain World is great. I fully plan on playing at least. I'm gonna play or at least try the rest of the campaigns. I can't promise that I'll finish the all of the other campaigns depending on difficulty, but we will see what happens. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little final thoughts analysis thing. Not exactly a retrospective, but like more of a like things that I can now get to uh that I wasn't able to get to in the previous discussion videos now that I finished the game. So yeah, ramble done. I'm going to go ahead and do my outro. Thank you everybody so much for checking out the video. I really do appreciate it. If you want to be notified of when I upload a new part of the Rain World file or the start of a new file to the archives, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring that bell, as well as leave a like or comment if you so desire. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.